Welcome back to What Everybody is Saying, an ex-FBI agent's guide to speed reading people by Joe Navarro. This is the continuation of Chapter 2, Types of Pacifying Behaviors. Pacifying behaviors take many forms. When stressed, we might soothe our necks with a gentle massage, stroke our faces, or play with our hair. This is done automatically. Our brains send out the message, please pacify me now. And our hands respond immediately, providing an action that will help make us comfortable again. Sometimes we pacify by rubbing our cheeks or our lips from the inside with our tongues, or we exhale slowly with puffed cheeks to calm ourselves. If a stressed person is a smoker, he or she will smoke more. If the person chews gum, he or she will chew faster. All these pacifying behaviors satisfy the same requirement of the brain. That is, the brain requires the body to do something that will stimulate nerve endings, releasing calming endorphins in the brain so that the brain can be soothed. Hagsep, 1998, page 272. For our purposes, any touching of the face, head, neck, shoulder, arm, hand, or leg in response to a negative stimulus, for example, a difficult question, an embarrassing situation, or stress as a result of something heard, seen, or thought, is a pacifying behavior. These stroking behaviors don't help us to solve problems. Rather, they help us to remain calm while we do. In other words, they soothe us. Men prefer to touch their faces. Women prefer to touch their necks, clothing, jewelry, arms, and hair. When it comes to pacifiers, people have personal favorites. Some choose to chew gum, smoke cigarettes, eat more food, lick their lips, rub their chins, stroke their faces, play with objects, pens, pencils, lipstick, or watches, pull their hair, or scratch their forearms. Sometimes pacification is even more subtle, like a person brushing the front of his shirt or adjusting his tie. He appears simply to be preening himself, but in reality, he is calming his nervousness by drawing his arm across his body and giving his hands something to do. These two are pacifying behaviors, ultimately governed by the limbic system and exhibited in response to stress. Below are some of the most common and pronounced pacifying behaviors. When you see them, stop and ask yourself, why is this person pacifying? Why is this person pacifying? The ability to link a pacifying behavior with the specific stressor that caused it can help you understand a person's thoughts, feelings, and intentions more accurately. All right, this chapter, or this part of the chapter, has a lot of inserts, a lot of figures. Let's go over them before moving on. So the first one is figure 7, and that is covering of the neck dimple pacifies insecurities, emotional discomfort, fear, or concerns in real time. Playing with a necklace often serves the same purpose. You've seen it in movies. You may have experienced it yourself, or if you're a woman, you may have done it yourself. It's not restricted to only women, but it is mainly a female dominant uh, action. This next one is figure 8. Rubbing of the forehead is usually a good indicator that a person is struggling with something or is undergoing slight to severe discomfort. Yeah, just mirror some of these as we go through these images, mirror the actions. and see if it stimulates a parasympathetic response. That means what emotion does that seem to generate? All right, the next one is figure 9. Neck touching takes place when there is emotional discomfort, doubt, or insecurity. As a reminder, if you're using a Linux operating system, use the screenshot tool. If you're using Windows, use the, what is it, the snip and stitch? Yeah, snip and sketch tool. And you can screenshot these. If you're using Android, I guess if you hold the volume button in or something, Apple, nobody cares. They use slave labor, so shame on you. All right. So the previous one was figure 9, as you can see in the upper right corner of each of the images, figures 10 and 11. Cheek or face touching is a way to pacify when nervous, irritated, or concerned. That's figure 10 on the left. Figure 11, exhaling with puffed out cheeks is a great way to release stress and to pacify. Notice how often people do this after a near mishap. So if you're doing something and you're the guy who is passing something to somebody else and it slips out of your fingers just before they can grab it, but then you or your partner catches it, you might do that figure 11 gesture. Okay, this next one is figure 12. It's the men adjust their ties to deal with insecurities or discomfort. It also covers the suprasternal notch. Um, any men who wear ties are familiar with this maneuver. It's the essentially it's a reset. After conducting something that an action, whether it's distasteful or prideful. Sometimes you'll see a man, you know, uh, readjust his head while gripping the knot of the tie as he straightens it and adjust his shoulders. Um, you know, for example, Pierce Brosnan, when he was James Bond, he would do that maneuver. Now we're going to dive into the next section, pacifying behaviors involving the neck. Neck touching and or stroking is one of the most significant and frequent pacifying behaviors we use in responding to stress. One person may rub or massage the back of his neck with his fingers. Another may stroke the sides of his neck or just under the chin above the Adam's apple, tugging at the fleshy area of the neck. This area is rich with nerve endings that, when stroked, reduce blood pressure, lower the heart rate, and calm the individual down. Right now, we've got figures 13 and 14, and it goes on to describe in figure 13 men tend to massage or stroke their necks to pacify distress. This area is rich with nerves, including the vagus nerve, which, when massaged, will slow down the heart rate. Figure 14 on the right. Men typically cover their necks more robustly than women as a way to deal with discomfort or insecurity. Over the decades that I have studied nonverbal behaviors, I have observed that there are gender differences in the way men and women use the neck to pacify themselves. Typically, men are more robust in their pacifying behaviors, grasping or cupping their necks just beneath the chin with their hands, thereby stimulating the nerves, specifically the vagus nerves or the carotid sinus of the neck, which in turn slow the heart rate down and have a calming effect. Sometimes men will stroke the back or the sides or the back of, sometimes men will stroke the sides or the back of the neck with their fingers or adjust their tie knot or shirt collar. Women pacify differently. For example, when women pacify using the neck, they will sometimes touch, twist, or otherwise manipulate a necklace if they are wearing one. As mentioned, the other major way women neck pacify is by covering their suprasternal notch with their hand. Women touch their hands to this part of their neck and or cover it when they feel stressed, insecure, threatened, fearful, uncomfortable, or anxious. Interestingly, when a woman is pregnant, I have observed that her hand will initially move toward her neck, but at the last moment will divert to her belly as if to cover the fetus. This is box insert number 11, the pacifying pendulum. Watch a couple as they converse at a table. If the woman begins to play with her necklace, most likely she is a little nervous. But if she transitions her fingers to her neck dimple, suprasternal notch, chances are there is an issue of concern to her or she feels very insecure. In most instances, if she is using her right hand on her suprasternal notch, she will cup her right elbow with her left hand. When the stressful situation is over or there is an intermission in the uncomfortable part of the discussion, her right hand will lower and relax across her folded left arm. If the situation again becomes tense, her right hand will rise once again to the suprasternal notch. From a distance, the arm movement looks like the needle on a stress meter, moving from resting on the arm to the neck, upright, and back again, according to the level of stress experienced. And as a clarifier, that's not always going to be the right arm. It depends on what they are dominant. If they're right arm dominant, as the majority of the population, that is true in my experience. If they are truly left arm dominant, it'll be the opposite. So, this is the reason that you need to establish a baseline to know what their dominance is. And dominance is, especially with left handed individuals, an individual can be left-handed but be right eye dominant, left or right and left. Excuse me. A left-handed individual can also be right eye dominant and right leg dominant, or they can be left eye dominant, left hand dominant, right leg dominant. It's a very tricky thing, and it's something that you have to account for because, as discussed prior, the further away you are from the brain, the more subconscious it is, the the uh, the response, the less direct control and influence you have on that. This is figure 15. Even a brief touch of the neck will serve to assuage anxiety or discomfort. Neck touching or massaging is a powerful and universal stress reliever and pacifier. The next section is pacifying behaviors involving the face. Touching or stroking the face is a frequent human pacifying response to stress. Motions such as rubbing the forehead, touching, rubbing, or licking the lips, pulling or massaging the earlobe with thumb and forefinger, stroking the face or beard, and playing with the hair all can serve to pacify an individual when confronting a stressful situation. As mentioned before, some individuals will pacify by puffing out their cheeks and then slowly exhaling. The plentiful supply of nerve endings in the face make it an ideal area of the body for the limbic brain to recruit to comfort itself. Now, I'm going to include that for men, the nose touching, depending on who you talk to and what you read, there is the debate that if a man fidgets with his nose, he's lying. And the basis is based upon that the same nerves, the same sensitivity in the nose is the same as male genitalia. And I haven't researched it enough. Again, I want to stress the value and importance of baselining one's behavior before assigning just oh, this is an obvious indicator of deception. Um, just be aware of that. But people, long ago, somebody came into work and was bragging about having grown habaneros. I love spicy food. They offered to bring in some habaneros. They so the next day they came back with a paper bag full of habaneros, and I, took a break and was eating them, but I didn't wash my hands afterward. About 30 minutes to an hour later, I noticed that my face was becoming warm. This is the importance of the video recording yourself. During that time that I was eating the habaneros and afterward, I didn't realize the frequency that I had, would move my fingers to my face to, brush an eyelash off or, you know, whatever may have been the cause. But yeah, that's always been a lesson that stuck with me. So these things, that's why you want to record yourself so you can see how it is that you behave, or you can just get yourself a bunch of habaneros and then find out what you're touching on your body that you don't realize you're doing in the course of a day. So let's see. The next one is pacifying behaviors involving sounds. Whistling can be a pacifying behavior. We've all seen the scary movie, horror movie, where one of the characters will make a comment about soothing themselves about, because they'll be nervously talking, or they'll sing, or they'll whistle, as the first sentence states. There's also the classic Snow White, and the Seven Dwarves of whistle while you work, and that helps pass the time. The chain gangs have those songs where, you know, they distract themselves about the heavy labor that they're performing in song. Some people whistle to calm themselves when they are walking in a strange area of a city or down a dark, deserted corridor or road. Some people even talk to themselves in an attempt to pacify during times of stress. I have a friend, as I am sure we all do, who can talk a mile a minute when nervous or upset. Some behaviors combine tactile and auditory pacification. Tactile means, using your hands, feeling, touch, and auditory obviously is audio, such as the tapping of a pencil or the drumming of fingers. All right, we're going to conclude this video with excessive yawning. Sometimes we see individuals under stress yawning excessively. We've already discussed this earlier, that there's the description that if you are yawning, you can use it as a test to see if somebody is watching you, because even speaking about it is enough to make me want to yawn. So if you're hearing it, and if I were to perform the action especially, then your parasympathetic might kick in and you may yawn as well. It's an odd reflex. The What I was describing though with surveillance is, if you yawn and you notice somebody else yawning, that's because they're observing you. They may not be, spying on you, but they may have seen you. Whether it's true or not, it's been described to me that if somebody is observing you and they don't, it's an indicator of a sociopath. And I don't know if that's authentic or if it's just an old wives' tale. But it's something to keep in mind. When I was doing surveillance, when I learned about this, I debated, on it, and I decided to try to train myself so that I wouldn't reflexively yawn if I saw someone else do it. It does take a while to condition yourself, but it's not 100%. And because of the moniker of, the in layman terms, that people may perceive one as a sociopath. I have no interest in being perceived as a sociopath. Life is hard enough as it is. I don't need any false labels. And you do with that information as you please. All right, so excessive yawning. Sometimes we see individuals under stress yawning excessively. Yawning not only as a form of taking a deep breath, but during stress, as the mouth gets dry, a yawn can put pressure on the salivary glands. The stretch of various structures in and around the mouth causes the glands to release moisture into a dry mouth during times of anxiety. In these cases, it's not lack of sleep, but rather stress that causes the yawning. All right, I'm having problems transferring an image for the next topic, which deals with the self soothing gesture called leg cleanser. I've already described it. It's when you put your palms face down on top of your thighs and press out as if you're kneading, kneading dough, smoothing something out. That is a self-soothing gesture, and I want to incorporate the figure 16 that they have on the book for that. So after I deal with my computer issues, we'll resume with leg cleanser and work towards the end of the chapter.